After spending less than 2 years on death row, Christina Marie Riggs was executed by lethal injection in Arkansas. She did something so disturbing, so unforgivable the jury didn't hesitate, and neither did the state. But before we get to her final moments, we have to go back to the choice that sealed her fate. Due to the nature of this case, viewer discretion is advised. All descriptions are factual and handled with care. On November 4, 1997, Christina left the Arkansas Heart Hospital for the last time. But this time, she didn't clock out like it was just another shift, because in her mind, there would be no tomorrow, not for her and not for her kids. She walked out of that building with a pocket full of stolen drugs, morphine, potassium chloride, and a bottle of Elavil. But these weren't for treating patients. They were for something much darker. That night, inside her small apartment in Sherwood, Christina tucked in her 2 children, her son Justin, who was just 5 years old, and her daughter Shelby, who was barely 2. She kissed their foreheads, straightened their blankets, all the things any mother might do. But this time, it wasn't bedtime. It was a countdown. At around 10 p.m., she gave them both high doses of Elavil, a powerful antidepressant, enough to knock them out. Then she stood over their beds and watched them sleep, waiting for the pills to take effect. And what happened next would haunt everyone who heard it. She went to Justin first, filled a syringe, and pushed potassium chloride straight into his veins. It's the same drug used in executions, but Christina hadn't diluted it. And Justin's body reacted instantly. He woke up confused, screaming, and crying. His chest clenched tight, and his nerves lit up like fire. He had no idea what was happening. That's when Christina panicked. She tried to fix it with morphine, hoping to calm him down, but that didn't work. So she grabbed a pillow and pressed it down. Justin fought. He kicked and clawed beneath her hands, but Christina was too strong. He was crying, shouting, "Mama, no! Mama, Mama!" But Christina held firm, and eventually his body gave out. Then she turned to Shelby, but this time she couldn't bring herself to use the needle again, not after seeing what it had done to Justin. So instead, she smothered her. And Shelby, still groggy from the Elavil, didn't put up much of a fight. She was too young to understand what was going on, and within seconds, she went still. When it was over, Christina picked up both of their bodies and carried them to her bed. She laid them side by side, pulled the blanket up like she was tucking them in for the night, and sat down to write 3 goodbye notes, one to her mother, one to her sister, and one to her ex-husband. In the letter to her mother, she explained that she feared that the kids, who had different fathers, would be separated after she died. And she also wrote that she didn't want them growing up knowing she had taken her own life. Christina then swallowed a massive dose of 28 Elavil pills herself, injected potassium chloride straight into her body, and collapsed on the floor beside her bed, right next to the children she had just put to sleep, forever. This was supposed to be the end, but it wasn't. The next day, November 5th, her mother Carol grew anxious. She hadn't heard from Christina and couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Around 4 p.m., she let herself into the apartment and froze in place. What she saw shattered her. Her grandchildren were gone, and Christina, barely alive, lay on the floor, unconscious but still breathing. Carol immediately grabbed the phone and called 911, and paramedics arrived minutes later. Christina was fading, but they worked quickly, loaded her into the ambulance, and rushed her to the Baptist Memorial Hospital. By 5:30 p.m., doctors had pumped her stomach and stabilized her. She had survived, but the damage was already done. Back at the apartment, detectives started to piece everything together. They found syringes, leftover morphine, potassium chloride, and an empty bottle of Elavil, and they also found the letters. One by one, the puzzle started to come into focus. Right away, they called the hospital with a clear order: no visitors. Christina wasn't allowed to see or talk to anyone, not even her own family. But the family pushed back. Just after midnight, they hired a lawyer to protect her, and he didn't waste time. He called the police directly and told them not to speak with Christina unless he was present. but the police ignored him. The next morning, November 6th, detectives walked into her hospital room. They read her rights, hit record, and started asking questions. And within 8 minutes, Christina confessed. She told them everything: how she had tried to end all of their lives, how she watched Justin scream in pain, how she pressed a pillow over his face to finish what she had started, how she moved their bodies into her bed afterward, hoping they would all die together. And she said she never warned anyone because she didn't think anyone would understand. By the end of that same day, Christina was booked into Pulaski County Jail and charged with 2 counts of capital murder. And when she finally stood before the judge, she didn't try to hide what she had done, but she still pleaded not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. The damage, though, was already done. Her confession was recorded in her own voice. The letters were in her handwriting, and the apartment she left behind spoke for itself. It was a place where 2 children went to bed thinking they were safe and never opened their eyes again. From the moment Christina was arrested, investigators started peeling back the layers of her life, looking for answers, looking for the moment everything turned. And what they found didn't make things easier to understand. It just made everything feel heavier. Christina Marie Riggs was born in Lawton, Oklahoma, and raised in Oklahoma City. But raised doesn't always mean loved. Behind the front door, there were things happening no child should be left alone to face. She later told investigators she had been sexually abused by a relative, and by 14, she was already trying to dull the pain with cigarettes, alcohol, and weed. At 16, she got pregnant for the first time, and even though she carried the baby full term, she gave the child up for adoption. A decision she didn't talk about much afterward, but she did try to move forward. She went back to high school and earned a license in practical nursing, and for a while, her life looked steady. She spent her early 20s doing home health care, then later found work at a Veterans Administration hospital. On paper, she looked like someone rebuilding. She was good at what she did, but under the surface, something was starting to crack. In 1991, Christina got pregnant again, this time with a baby boy she named Justin Thomas. The father was already gone before she even found out she was pregnant. But not long before Justin was born in June 1992, she started dating a man named John Riggs, and they got married the following year. By December 1994, they had a second child, a daughter named Shelby Alexis, and in 1995, they packed up and moved to Sherwood, Arkansas, where Christina's mother lived. Here, Christina found a new job at the Baptist Hospital, and on paper, it looked like a fresh start. But the cracks widened quickly. Christina claimed John was violent with Justin, that she saw him punch the boy in the stomach once. That moment was the breaking point, she said, and she ended the marriage not long after. After that, she was alone, raising 2 kids, working long hospital shifts, and she got no real help. To most people, she looked like a tired but responsible single mom trying to hold everything together. But inside, she was spiraling. And in November 1997, everything exploded. At her trial in 1998, Christina didn't beg for mercy. She didn't claim innocence. Instead, she said she had lost her mind, and her lawyers argued she wasn't guilty because of insanity. That years of depression had hollowed her out, and the trauma from working as a nurse so close to the Oklahoma City bombing had shattered whatever was left. Doctors testifying on her behalf said she had been severely depressed as a result of sexual abuse as a child, a series of failed relationships with men, lack of money, and lack of self-esteem because of her obesity. But prosecutors weren't buying it, and they painted a different picture. They said this wasn't grief, it wasn't sickness. They said Christina had grown bitter, and she saw her children as a burden. They accused her of leaving them locked in their bedroom while she hit karaoke bars at night, that she planned their murders calmly and coldly, and that what she did wasn't the result of insanity, but choice. They portrayed her as a cold-blooded killer to whom her children were an inconvenience. But in the end, it didn't matter, and the jury didn't take long to decide which version they believed. Christina Riggs was found guilty on all counts. Then came sentencing. Her defense team tried to fight for her life, but Christina wouldn't let them. She didn't want help. She didn't want a plea deal. She stood in court and said exactly what she wanted: to die. "I want to die. I want to be with my babies. I want you to give me the death penalty." And she wasn't bluffing. She meant it. She waived all of her appeals, one after the other, until there was nothing left to stop the execution. Christina was transferred to the McPherson unit, home to Arkansas's female death row. There, she waited in a small, windowless cell while her execution date drew closer. And when it finally came, she was taken to the Cummins unit, where Arkansas carries out its executions. She didn't fight it. She didn't ask for it to stop. Christina wanted to die, and in the end, the state let her. On May 2, 2000, Christina Marie Riggs walked to the death chamber weighing 270 pounds. Her weight made it difficult for the execution team to find a suitable vein in her arm, so she gave them permission to use her wrists instead. For her last meal, she asked for a supreme pizza with a side salad, pickled okra, strawberry shortcake, and a cherry limeade. Once she lay strapped to the gurney, Christina spoke directly to her children. "No words can express just how sorry I am for taking the lives of my babies," she said. "No way I can make up for or take away the pain I have caused everyone who knew and loved them." Her voice stayed steady as she added, "Now I can be with my babies, as I always intended." And before the drugs began to flow, she gave one final message: "I love you, my babies." Christina was the first woman executed in Arkansas since 1845, and to this day, she remains the youngest woman executed in the modern United States. She was pronounced dead at 9:28 p.m. Christina Marie Riggs was 28 years old. What do you think? Has justice been served? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.